Brains. They're pretty useful. They can help you with remembering things like how to write an engaging YouTube video opener and to not chew electrical wires. We need our brains, we love them, and despite how Martin Kirby acts, are quite essential to our survival. Therefore, when games come along and try to undo this balance between brain and man, all manner of distress ensues. And there have been tons of times where titles have taken us aside and violated our psyches. With this in mind, I'm Jules from WhatCulture.com, and here are 10 video game moments that totally messed with our minds. Number 10. Creative ending. Hotline Miami. Wow, what a crazy game. The colours, the costumes, the music, the violence, it all just flows together to create a hyperbolic stab at our eyeballs and our perceptions of aggression. Throughout the game, we are constantly asked whether we should question why we're killing so many people, and whether we enjoy the ever-increasing rampage. This culminates in one of the two endings of the game, in which the biker finally meets the two men behind all of the carnage-inducing phone calls. If you've not collected all of their clues in previous levels, they will simply say that it was all just a game, and ask you if you enjoyed it. It's only as this exchange goes on that you realise that you're actually talking to the devs of the game, and that their questioning about gratification and violence is one being aimed directly at you. The fourth wall break and the quandary you now face about why you even killed in the first place is surely a poignant and memorable moment from this frankly insane title. Number 9. When physics gets Antichamber. Oh god, I feel like my cortex is gonna throw up. This game is a collection of puzzles designed by the mad and played by the insane. Constantly changing up the laws of what does and doesn't work means the game places the player in a position where the laws of reality mean about as much as an apology from Paula Deen about racial slurs. The weird thing is that you start to adapt to this ever-shifting world, meaning that the game effectively teaches you to embrace the utter weirdness of it all. It's only when you switch the game off and try to walk to your kitchen via the ceiling that you realise that maybe Antichamber has had a deeper effect on your psyche than you might have imagined. Number 8. The Scarecrow sections. Batman Arkham Asylum. When you booted up Batman Arkham Asylum for the first time, you probably expected a lot of this, a little of this, and possibly some of this lovable scamp. But you probably weren't expecting this. Well, thanks to serial syringe stabber the Scarecrow, that's exactly what you get. A drug-fueled psychosis which leads to several horrific jump scares and some intense waking nightmares. But the moment that tops it all is when the game fakes a breakdown and reboots itself. Gamers freaking out about the potential lost save were silenced when they suddenly saw the Joker at the wheel of the Batmobile carting Juicy Bruce to the madhouse. Confusing and brilliantly executed, this scene culminates in an impossible button prompt which left us with cerebral fluid all over ourselves. Number 7. The Sinner's Sandwich. Deadly Premonition. Deadly Premonition is just so weird, just so weird, and I bloody love it for it. From conversations about 80s punk bands to having enemies wanting to feed you a knuckle sandwich in the most literal sense, it's a title which embraces its own oddity. For me, this comes to a head in an early scene in which an aging real estate mogul Harry Stewart and his aide Michael, who only speaks in rhymes because of course he does, gives Agent York a lesson in something by ordering the Sinner's Sandwich. What's in the Sinner's Sandwich, I hear you ask? Well, it's turkey, jam and cereal. When York sees this discount Slipknot member order this, he declares it food for a person atoning for past sins. Then he orders it himself, and then falls in love with the taste. Deadly Premonition, why are you so at odds with logic? Number 6. Would You Kindly, Bioshock. We've covered this point so many times on countless other lists here on What Culture that I feel like I'm treading very familiar ground. By now you probably know all about the Bioshock plot twist, so I won't waste your time with tons of setup. All that needs to be said is that the feeling of seeing those ever-important words written on that massive wall and finally connecting this sentence to the string of actions you've taken is something you're not likely to forget. It's a monstrous shift in reality for the player, and one that was almost impossible to see coming. And the best part is that when you eventually return to the game, you can see all of the crumbs that led you to this moist mind cake revelation. Number 5. The Mariella ending, The Stanley Parable. In a game in which you have your own personal narrator, you could probably expect there to be a good deal of weirdness, and The Stanley Parable does not disappoint. For this is a title at once humorous, eerie, and at points downright insane. The game contains a multitude of endings which would make your brain simply pop, but our personal favourite lobotomizer comes in the form of the insane ending, or as it's also known, the Mariella ending. To get this wonderfully mad moment, you need to follow the advice of the narrator for all except one choice. When he tells you to go up some stairs, simply refuse and instead go down. This will trigger an endless loop of rooms and also prompt the narrator to begin a large monologue questioning the very fabric of existence and whether anything is real. As the cycle continues and mounts to ever-increasing insanity, Stanley begins to break down, leading eventually to his untimely demise. After his passing, the narrator tells a story of a woman called Mariella, who finds the broken Stanley, deceased and alone in the corridor. Number 4. The Repetition, PT. Proving that not all entries on this list are extreme changes in reality, PT managed to concoct some of the most brain-melting moments through simple acts of repetition. Forcing players to tread the same corridor again and again meant that the devs could pull focus to slight changes in the environment. The ramping up of events was dealt with so well that the tension permeated the entire playtime. When you've seen a ghostly apparition mere feet in front of you and then are made to feel just as tense with a simple colour change in light bulbs, you know that the game has managed to worm its way in. Therefore, PT earns its place with this, a simple opening of a door. God damn, do I wish this was still a thing. Number 3. Committing suicide, Call of Cthulhu. If being stranded in a town inhabited by fish-eyed people and demonic hellspawn wasn't bad enough, developers of Call of Cthulhu Dark Corners of Earth decided that in order to really sell that you were indeed in the presence of the god of madness, that there should be, well, a ton of mad shit happening. If you happen to look directly at any of these unsettling events, then Jack Walter, the protagonist's mental state will begin to drain. This leads to hallucinations, hearing voices, and even changing control sensitivity. But the tip top of this insanity iceberg is what happens if you let the sanity meter drain fully. For if you do so, the poor Jack, warped by the horrors of the beyond, takes matters into his own hands and commits suicide. It's pretty haunting to say the least. Number 2. Fake game crash, Eternal Darkness. Eternal Darkness is kind of like having an older brother who's an absolute dick, in that it constantly messes with the players for no reason other than to make them upset and cry and then pee themselves. Anyway, the game had a multitude of different effects that it could spring on you at any given moment. From muting the volume, to clearing out your inventory on a whim, even going so far as to pretend to delete all of your game saves. But the most cardinal sin that this game pulled was faking a game crash. Now, I don't know if you're aware, but gamers, they're kind of protective of their titles. So when Eternal Darkness faked such a crash, it sent collective shivers down spines and popped many an angry boner. And number 1, the endgame twist, Second Sight. Okay, so I know that many of you might not be familiar with Second Sight, but trust me, this action shooter from the maker of Time Splitters is an absolute joy. It sees you take control of John Vatic, a parapsychology researcher who is tasked with helping a crack team of soldiers secure a military base which has got all manner of psychic spookiness going on. All proceeds as you'd expect, with the mission being a failure and Jack being locked away in a research institute headed up by a purely Machiavellian CEO. Using his newfound psychic powers, Jack jumps back into the past to change the future. However, the moment which really turns your brains into blancmange is when you find out that the present in which Jack is a discount Manhunt 2 protagonist is actually the future. And what he's actually doing is using precognition to see what will happen if the mission he's on fails. Therefore, he uses all of the information he's gathered from the future to shape the actual present for the better. I tell ya, I've played it, I've read the plot, and my mind is still all over the shop. Great times, but I just gotta say, what? And that's our list. Got any more games which melted your minds? I'm sure I've missed a ton off, so let me know about them in the comments section below. And if you want to get inside my sexy brain, you can do so here, or catch me on my personal Twitter, RetroJ with a 0. As always, if you enjoyed the video, then like, share, and subscribe for more. I've been Jules from WhatCulture.com, and we'll meet again soon.